Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today we're taking a look at the top 8 deck lists for our largest Lorcana event so far post Rise of the Floodborn format. This event took place in France at Ludotrotter, which I hope I'm saying correctly. And yes, there were... how many players were there? There were 198 players. This took place on December the 3rd. My information today comes from the Mushu report, legend as they are, and they in turn got their information from a Twitch stream, which will also be linked down below. But yeah, our biggest event so far, so important data to look at, so let's take a look at the lists. So I'm afraid to say to those of you that were hoping for a bit more of a shake-up when it came to ink colours, you will be disappointed, because the winner once again, well, I say once again, it's been Steel Amber that's been actually winning most of these tournaments, but Ruby Amethyst is overwhelmingly taking up most of those top 8 spots, and that is no different in these lists. But this time they did go all the way. So our first list, courtesy of Thomas, was running Ruby Amethyst Villains, which of course I'm going to smile to see. We've got our 4-2 drops of 4-2 of our 1-drops, Minnie and Olaf. We've got our standard count of Madam Mim, Snake, Fox, Merlin, Goat and Rabbit. We've also got the 4 count of Maleficent. We've got the 2 copies of Overbearing, is it Monarch or Matriarch? I think it's Matriarch. The Lady Tremaines, the 2-cost uninkables, who will deny your opponent a law if they are lower than you in law count, should I say. We've got 3 copies of Maui and 3 copies of Yzma, becoming a bit of a staple between 3 and 4. That's one of the most regular differences we're seeing in these Ruby Amethyst lists, which are by and large pretty similar. All the way in on the Imperial Queen, Lady Tremaine, we've got 4 Maleficent, 4 Teeth and Ambitions, 4 Friends on the other side, 2 Most Diabolical Scheme, 4 Be Prepared, and 2 Sorcerer's Spellbook. So we've got those Spellbook to cheat some extra lore. We've got Yzma to remove threats from the opposing board and just to bounce back our own cards to let us draw, which is sometimes going to be getting us even more value if we're bouncing back goats and rabbits and things like that. Lady Tremaine, the overbearing matriarch, can be not only shifted into the Floodborn version, but she can be returned to the hand with your bouncers, and you can reuse that ability. Teeth and Ambitions obviously works really well, especially with our 1-drops who have 3 willpower each, and most of our deck, besides the baby Lady Tremaine, other than that, and the Sorceress Maleficent, other than that, everything survives a self-chip from Teeth and Ambitions. And Most Diabolical Scheme becoming the replacement in a lot of cases for Dragon's Fire, because it's singable, it's cheaper to be able to remove threats earlier, those aerials, those Arthurs, whatever it is that's annoying you on the opposing side of the board, or even later on in the game, just so that you can sing it and then you've got more utilization of your ink. So yeah, I really like the Diabolical Scheme, and of course we've got plenty of villains to pay that cost. So yeah, deck looks really, really good. Nothing new and fancy to talk about, just Ruby Amethyst still doing Ruby Amethyst things. So congratulations to Thomas. Our second place list is pretty much the same, only 5 1-drops, only playing 1 copy of Minnie. Everything else looks the same. We've got 4 Maui and only 2 Yzma in this list. We're not running the baby Lady Tremaine, but we're still all in on the Floodborn. We've still got the 2 Diabolical Scheme, the 4 Teeth. We've got the Scar in this list in addition to the Be Prepared, which I do like. We also see the Queen of Hearts, 2-cost inkable, 2/2, quest for 1, and has the Rush ability, nice for removing threats, especially against aggro, and another target for our Most Diabolical Scheme. So yeah, just a slightly different counts in a couple of places. We see the addition of Scar, but other than that, Ruby Amethyst doing Ruby Amethyst things. Look at all the Ruby Amethyst lists in a row, it just makes the most sense. Moving into our top 8, we've got Thomas with Spellbook Bounce. So we do see the 3 Arthur, we see the standard counts of Snake, Fox, Goat, only 3 Rabbit in this list. We see the 4 Maleficent, only 3 Minis, but we see 4 Pascal in this particular list. No Teeth and Ambitions here, no Most Diabolical Scheme, they've gone with the 2 Dragon's Fire. We do see the 2 Peter Pan Shadow, who I really like. Great great answer to just evasive in general, especially in the mirror. You see the Stylish Surfer mini coming up a lot, so it's great to be able to put the, obviously Peter Pan Shadow itself can't take that mini out in one shot, but it gives all your rush characters evasive. So our Queen of Hearts, our Madam Mim Fox, and our Maui all suddenly have evasive, so we can deal with evasive threats and just be evasive ourselves and be more annoying, so that we can be a bit more reckless in our questing or our singing or whatever it might be, and feeling a bit better about the fact that they won't be able to go into our mims with their stuff. So yeah, I really like the Peter Pan Shadow. Only 3 of the Imperial Queen Lady Tremaine in this list, which I still like. We see 2 Elsa in this list. I still like Elsa. I'm only on 1 because it's just a space thing really, and trying to make the rest of your deck do what it wants to do as consistently as possible. But I do still like Elsa. But we see a 2 count here, all the way in on Maleficent and Friends and Be Prepared, and 2 Sorceress Spellbook. So yeah, again, a few slight count differences. The Peter Pan Shadow is obviously different, and I do like the Peter Pan Shadow. We see no Diabolical Scheme in this list. We've gone for the Dragon's Fire and a Pascal Believer. Again, if we're not playing Teeth and Ambitions, then it makes a bit more sense. But I still like the 3 Willpower, just because it safeguards you a bit more against opposing Cinderella and Storm Rage on, or even Strength of a Raging Fire, like they have to have at least 3 characters on board. So yeah, a couple of choices that aren't my preference way of playing it, but we've seen lists similar to this do really well in our meta so far. So yeah, really good. Well done to Thomas. Our next top 8 list, this time from Nicholas, we see only 4 1-drops. We see the 4 Olaf. We see our standard counts of Snake, Fox, Goat, 4 Rabbit. In this list, we are seeing the 2 Pinocchio, Talkative Puppet, who I really like, and I've started playing in my version of Ruby Amethyst. Really good against aggro, which can just win the game before you get a chance to do anything. So good answer to aggro, good answer to like LeFou and Arthur loops, and just for anything really, like exerting opposing characters is just good. So I like that. Especially going to work really well with our Heroic Outlaw Aladdin, who has made their way into this list. Which is just always been a good card, but has been squeezed out as of late. But the fact that you put this Heroic Outlaw in the list now because you want to play the baby Aladdin, because it's good for, you can like keep using this Aladdin to deny your opponent law, similar to the Tremaine. The difference being this one is inkable. You don't have to be above your opponent in law for it to kick. So those are the benefits to this Aladdin as opposed to the other Tremaine. The other Tremaine is uninkable, a bit more situational because they have to be winning the law race, but it's only a 2 cost. Obviously the baby Lady Tremaine has a Floodborn target, a shift target, who is more prevalent in this meta, but playing the Street Rat Aladdin is still a really good shout, just for being able to like win this race more consistently. So I really like the Aladdin package in here. We see the 4 Befuddle, which I really like. I think that's going to start cropping up more as well, and 2 Spellbook in this list. We see no Dragon's Fire, no Most Diabolical Scheme. But yeah, other than that, looks really good. So congratulations to Nicholas. And I left a slightly different Ruby Amethyst list till last. Also in top 8, we've got William, this time an Aggro Bounce version. So we've got 4 count of Maleficent Biding Her Time, 1 cost uninkable, Quest for 2, and 1/1, who is going to be one of our preferable turn 1 drops. We've also got 2 copies of Olaf as a 1-drop, and 4 Pascal, and we got a lot of 1-drops. We got 4 count of Snake, 4 count of Fox. We see no Rabbit in this list. No, we do see a Rabbit. We see a 2 count of Rabbit in this list. We see the 4 Goat. We see the 4 Stylish Surfer. We see the 4 LeFou there. Going to be good for re-readying our big questers with low damage and willpower, such as Maleficent and the Pinocchio, who quest for 3. Going to be good for re-readying our Arthur and get that loop consistent. We see the 3 Befuddle, 4 Teeth and Ambitions to work with a lot of characters that have a lot of willpower, and 4 Friends, 4 Sorceress Spellbook. No Be Prepared. 200-person tournament, you've got to take the data. Again, I get it to a degree. I said this in my last video reviewing top 8, that, and especially in the aggro list, you don't really want to be wiping the board. You want to fill the board. So I suppose that's the idea here. They're just saying, I'm just going to win this race. Like by the time you get to your be prepared, I'm going to be so close to game as it is that it's all it's going to take me is a couple of goats or just 1 or 2 turns of Maleficent, Pinocchio, Arthur, Sorcerer's Spellbook. So yeah, no be prepared. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think, like, if you were going to play this aggressive version, are you happy to leave out the be prepared? But nonetheless, they made top 8 in a big old field, so congratulations to William. A change in colour now, going back to our top 4. We have Robin with some Steel Amber tragic songs, I've called this. So we see no copies of A Whole New World in here, worth noting right off the bat. Obviously our 4 copies of Ariel Spectacular Singer to find songs and sing them cheaply. So that's finding our Be Our Guests, our Storm Rage On, and our Grab Your Swords. That is our song count here. So yeah, going to work well with Ariel. That Let the Storm Rage On is also going to work really well with our Ballroom Sensation Cinderella, who will be able to sing. Hopefully we put that down on turn 1 and we can basically check opposing 1-drops unless they're 1/3 stat line, but even then it's kind of worth doing just to get the chip and then draw a card. In that vein, we also see the 4/4 line of the Queen and the Shifted Queen, good for a turn 2 shift. We can sing songs nice and early and she's just really strong. Quest for 2, big stat line, and that ability of who's the fairest can give us more control over the board. We've got 3 copies of Prince Eric working his way in here as a respectable 2-drop, which makes sense to me looking at this list. We see 2 Benja, nice, respecting the meta, thinking about those spell books, thinking about those lanterns, thinking about those Sleepy's Flutes. We also see the 2 count of Lawrence in here. 3 cost Inkable with a 0/4 stat line, quest for 2. While this character has no damage, he gets +4 strength. So yeah, like it's a very cheap way of getting a character that can hit for 4. So I'm sure this put in some work. Took Robin to top 4, so you'd love to see it. 4 copies of Tiny Tactician and Tinkerbell, of course, also followed by the 4 Giant Fairy. I said in the last set of lists I look at that I like Tiny Tink making her way back into the format. I think it's like being able to shift turn 4. Big Tink is still very strong. 4 copies of Rapunzel here for some card draw. We also see the 4 copies of Tragic Hero Beast, which is one of my favourite cards from Rise of the Floodborn. Really strong. Warrants not playing the Whole New World. Like that's a lot of draw power. And we got the 3 Surfer Stitch as draw power. And of course the Cinderella Stout-Hearted, who can shift onto our Ballroom Sensation and attack ready characters at the cost of a song, and 3 copies of Smash as a nice respect answer to opposing Ariels and Arthurs, and just that extra little bit of damage we might need to fully take out a threat. So yep, this looks fantastic. I really like the Lawrence. Off the top of my head, I can't think what it's immediately answering. I mean, like just anything with 4 willpower really. Yeah, no, like the list, looks good, and brought them to a top 4, so congratulations to Robin. And our other Steel Amber Songs list, this time piloted by, is it Matteo? Is that how you say that? This time we do see the 4 copies of Whole New World. So we got the wheel. We've also got 4 copies of Let the Storm Rage On, 4 Be Our Guest, 4 Grab Your Swords, and we are running the 2 copies of The World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Sorry, I just can't resist. So like a lot of songs in here, and I like the World's Greatest Criminal Mind as an answer to a lot of things that are prevalent in the meta. So we got the 4 Ballroom Sensation Cinderella, and we've got the 4 Knight in Training Cinderella, so there's lots of targets for our Stout-Hearted, and the Knight in Training is obviously good for letting us just see more cards and find the pieces that we would like. 4 Line of the Queen for all the reasons we've talked about, 3 Rapunzel for that card draw, the 4 Tiny Tactician also making their way into Matteo's list, 4 Bodyguard Simba for some extra protection. We see 2 copies of the Hardheaded Beast for some item removal, and another 5-cost character that can sing Whole New World and sing Grab Your Swords, and questing for 2 and a 4/4 stat line is respectable. I would still like to see the Tragic Hero, but hey, that's me. And we see 2 copies of Smash once again. Respect for, I think, just being able to remove Arthur's is so important, and Ariel's as well is really game changing. So yeah, I really like seeing the Smash. So well done to Matteo. And we've left the lone different list till last. Also making top 8, we have Lucas with some Ruby Amethyst Pawp Toolbox. This list is trying to do a lot of things. So first of all, we've got 5 1-drops. We've got 2 copies of Sergeant Tibbs. Good to see you again, Sergeant. 3 copies of Flounder, which will make the citizens of Lorcana simply sing. We see 3 copies of Gaston, who I'm not a huge fan of in this meta. Too much Storm Rage on, too much Teeth and Ambitions going around. But if he does stick, he is going to put in some work. We see 2 copies of Aurora, the 2-cost Inkable 2/2 and Quest for 2. We see 3 copies of Cruella de Vil, 2-cost Inkable 3/2 stat line, and the ability which gives her evasive during your turn. I do like that as an include. It's going to answer the opposing minis and any other evasive that you might see popping up. We also see Jasmine as a 3-cost 3/3 Quest for 2. So we're like very much prioritizing just questing on our curve here. 3 copies of Judy Hopps, who can remove our own items. We're running 4 copies of Porpsicle, 1 copy of Scepter. We're probably more than anything going to be removing those spell books, those Sleepy's Flutes, those lanterns, the opposing Porpsicles in the mirror. We see 3 copies of Detective Mickey for some additional ramp. It is our only ramp in this deck, actually. I see no 1 jump ahead, so yeah, probably always our turn 3 preference. 3 copies, only 3 copies of Flavisham for some card draw. 4 copies of Nick Wilde for that recycle of Porpsicle. 2 copies of the 4-drop Prince Charming, 3/3 stat line and Quest for 3. 4 copies of Maui. 4 copies of Maleficent Uninvited, making her way back into the meta, seemingly. 4 copies of Lady Tremaine, Imperial Queen, for some extra removal. 1 Gaston, Intellectual Powerhouse, who I do like. 4/4 stat line is nice, Quest for 3. And again, like, it warrants the baby Gastons a little bit more. I still don't think I'd play the baby Gaston. Maybe I would. I haven't really tested this. I still think that Gaston just goes down far too quickly to too many chip cards in our meta. I still like the Gaston Floodborn one being in here to be able to see 3 cards in your deck and pick one. But yeah, we see him here. We also see Scar, Vicious Cheetah on top of the 4 Be Prepared as an extra answer. 2 copies of Hades, 3 copies of Maleficent, 2 Let It Go, and the 4 Be Prepared, 4 Popsicle, 1 Scepter. So you can see a pretty nice curve here that you can make. For me, this deck is trying to do a bit too much. I don't know. To me, it's a little bit messy. I'm not sure. I mean, it did really well, top 8ing a nearly 200-person tournament. Like, top respect. Obviously was piloted very well. I can't critique it too much without having played this type of build of this deck. But yeah, lots going on here. What do you think of this Pawp Toolbox variant? But nonetheless, congratulations to Lucas. And that's it for the top 8 deck lists for the Ludotrotter event. Once again, our biggest pool of data so far, so you got to pay attention. But one thing that is very much consistent is Ruby Amethyst is taking them top 8 slots. Steel Amber is still doing very well. 2 tournament wins behind it, and then 2 of the top 4 placements there. So Steel Amber can still do the job. I would like to have seen a breakdown for this particular tournament of all the other inks. If I am able to find that at a later point, then I'll add it as a pinned comment or something. So yeah, I would like to see the overall representation, because there is something to be said for just Ruby Amethyst is might just be being played so much more than anything else. That's certainly been the case with a couple of our tournaments that we've seen, but undeniably still incredibly strong in our meta. And that's it from me. If you're brand new to the channel, do please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit the like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.